Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and it is official. We have the first battler to reach Legend in the Might and Mastery season of Go Battle League. Now this trainer's name is Crescent Angels, and they're an unbelievably good battler from Japan. So today, I'm going to be showcasing the team that they used to reach the very top of the world. And that team is built around Shadow Dragonite. Shadow Dragonite as the lead, with Jellicent and Powder Snow Alolan Sandslash as the closer. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and I'm going to test out this first Legend team by Crescent Angels for myself. Hopping into the first match, and I'm seeing a bit of a tricky lead. Shadow Dragonite into Galarian Moltres. Sucker Punch does actually outdamage Dragon Breath in this matchup, meaning that my opponent, if they want to, will have an ability to Sucker Punch farm me all the way down in the 2s. But I'm going to be shielding up the Ancient Power. There's going to be a switch out into a regular Drapion. I bank a Dragon Claw and send in Alolan Sandslash. I am the regular Alolan Sandslash, which means I can survive 2 crunches here, but not if I get that defense drop. Oh my goodness, that is catastrophic. And things starting to go quite wrong in game number 1. I want to guarantee either a shield or a knockout, so I overfarm, fire off the drill run, but there's the shield right back. So unfortunately, I will now just completely lose the Sandslash. I need the energy on the Dragonite probably to get rid of the Moltres, so I'm in a very tough spot. I send in Jellicent, but Jellicent will get outpaced here. My opponent intentionally throwing their energy right when they get it. Crunch is going to land. I'm going to farm up, and I will throw on a bit of a weird timing there, throwing on alignment on 2 because I was expecting my opponent to not switch there. They should be bringing back in the Moltres. They do. In comes the Sandslash, but I'm able to switch into the Dragonite, make the superpower. That's going to be a one-hit KO. Back in comes the Moltres, and now it's going to be a race. I do 1 Hex and the Surf. This has to KO, or I lose. It KOs the Moltres, and somehow, against 2 Dark types, we're able to escape with the win with Jellicent. We move to the next match. We see a very nice Pokemon to catch on the safe swap here in Blastoise, because I can farm up a massive amount of energy on Dragonite and then fully wall them with Jellicent. Jellicent is going to be hit with Hydro Cannon after Hydro Cannon. I was aiming to try and catch a Skull Bash, but unfortunately I was not quite able to do so. Blastoise is going to go for another Hydro. I'm at back-to-back Surfs, so I'm just going to fire off this energy. Opponent so far very, very weak to the Jellicent. In comes Claydol, and Claydol will immediately be met with a Surf bait. Surf, even if it is no shielded, will do quite a lot of damage. I'm hoping to make one final Surf, but unfortunately I don't quite get there. In comes the Dragonite, and the rollout damage has added up quite a bit from earlier. I shield up the Rock Tomb, and now, at long last, I get to start firing off some energy. Dragon Claw, no shielded by the Claydol in the back. Oh no! Disaster! It's Talonflame, and I have an Alolan Sandslash in the back. Alolan Sandslash is not a Pokemon that I personally run very frequently, due to the hard win, hard loss nature of the Pokemon. I'm going to send in the Sandslash, getting absolutely eviscerated by those Incinerates, but I'm able to force a CMP tie, which means they're not going to get both their moves. And now it's going to be a race. I know Claydol has some residual energy. Can I survive the Mud Slaps, and can I get the Ice Punch? I can survive the Mud Slaps, but I get outpaced 1 turn away. We survive the Talonflame, but we cannot survive the Claydol, and that's a good game. Moving to the next match, looking for a bit of redemption, leading Dragonite into Malamar. Now this matchup is very even in terms of the fast move damage, but Malamar does have the pacing advantage, spamming out those foul plays in only 10 Psywaves. So I am going to be shielding up the first, overfarming, and then firing off this Dragon Claw before they get their second. Opponent is just going to fully sacrifice the Malamar. Out comes Drapion, and this is not what I was hoping to see. Drapion is going to get a massive Poison Sting farm down here, and that energy goes everywhere against my backline. I send in the Sandslash, but I know Sandslash is not long for this world. With multiple Shadow Crunches headed its way, Crunch is going to land. No debuff this time, and I will end up committing the shield. Opponent is going to full send the Crunch. I do unfortunately now get debuffed, and I'm going to return fire with the Ice Punch. Ice Punch into the Drapion. They decide to let it go. In the back is Claydol, and that is what I needed to see. Had they committed to that Drapion, I think I would have been in trouble, but they wanted to save a shield for the debuffer Claydol. But Jellicent has an amazing matchup here against Claydol. So far, in early results with this team, I feel like the team has a lot of play in a lot of different situations, but Drapion definitely a Pokemon that the team does feel a bit soft to. Surf is going to connect, dealing very nice damage there. Shadow Ball probably could have KO'd, but I haven't played Jellicent since the update, so I felt like Surf plus Ice Punch or Double Surf was going to be the way to go. Okay, we move to the next match. Great lead, Shadow Dragonite into Shadow Marowak. There's a safe switch into Furret. I get the catch and the sneak onto Sandslash, and things are looking pretty nice for me here. As, of course, Sandslash is going to be walling off Furret, Furret farming up a ton of energy, and Furret is now going to fire off a move. They did farm up to a Trailblaze. Trailblaze is going to be no shielded, and I am going to fire off the Ice Punch. This means that I will exit with energy, but my opponent has other ideas. It looks like they're going to double shield the Furret and just go for a full Sucker Punch farm down. I don't want to let that happen, so I send in Dragonite, trying for a snipe, but I don't quite have the residual energy needed. In comes a Wigglytuff. I do make a superpower before Wigglytuff farms me down. Now that Furret does have quite a bit of energy, so I bring in the Jellicent, and here I make a grave misplay. I should have just thrown the Surf and knocked out the Wigglytuff. I wanted residual energy so I could deal with that Furret, but now I'm debuffed, and I think being debuffed, I'm actually going to lose this game with both shields remaining because that Marowak and this fast move pressure is just going to be absolutely unrelenting. So I think this was a very winnable game. I end up switching out to reset the debuff, but it's much too late. I can't get to the two moves that I need. Marowak farms down, and I get KO'd with both shields remaining. Shadow Dragonite into Claydol. There's a safe switch into Furret. So far, very similar vibes to the previous game. Furret is going to have its Swift caught onto the Sandslash, and if my opponent does actually end up double shielding again, I think I'm not going to give up switch and aggressively pivot into the Dragonite. Instead, I'm just going to use Dragonite as a damage sponge and then just try and sweep with the Jellicent. So I'm going to farm up like I did last time to the back-to-back Ice Punches. This opponent is actually going to let it go, however, and that does work out pretty nicely for me. In comes Claydol. Claydol immediately met with an Ice Punch. There's a shield from the Claydol, and they will get a 2 Mud Slap head start. Back in comes the Dragonite. Dragonite immediately firing off the Dragon Claw. I need to apply damage before they can debuff me with a Rock Tomb. Claydol is quite bulky, shaking off that damage like it's nothing. They're going to fire off the Rock Tomb, and this will guarantee a shield from the Shadow Dragonite. In the back is Registeel. I'm debuffed, but Shadow Dragonite is so well positioned here. Dragonite gets the Unleash superpower. That's going to connect, and that's big damage onto that Registeel. Registeel, they're going to be able to fire off their cheapest move here, which is going to be Flash Cannon. I get a bit of an overfarm with this Dragonite, and I get to go for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is going to pick up the knockout. In comes Claydol. Claydol going to look for a farm down, hoping against hope that there's something in the back that 2 moves will KO. But unfortunately, we just have the extremely bulky Jellicent in the back, and Jellicent can absorb this energy for days. Claydol's coverage is unbelievable in this meta, but Jellicent just much too bulky, and that's game over. Shadow Dragonite into Diggersby. There's a safe switch into a Grumpig. Oh my goodness. The opponent breaking out the spice here with the Grumpig safe switch. Grumpig, I do think, is a pretty solid mon and probably should see more play. I think its biggest issue is just the fact that there are a lot of other Psywave users all vying for a few spots on a team. So oftentimes it does get overlooked in favor of Malamar and Lapras. But I just decided to play for swap here until they send in Azumarill. I'm just going to pivot out now into Jellicent. I fully intend on keeping Jellicent as healthy as I possibly can, so I'm going to be shielding up the play rough, and I'm going to overfarm and wait the turn, because they should try for the catch, and there it is. Great attempt by my opponent, trying for the Shadow Ball catch, but I'm not going to let that happen. So now I get to unleash a bunch of Surfs onto this Diggersby, and I have the Alolan Sandslash, and Alolan Sandslash is going to do an amazing job at shutting down the Azumarill's energy. So Diggersby has overfarmed quite significantly here. They're going for the Scorching Sands. That will connect. But the nice thing for me is this is still not play rough range. So even if they bring in the Azumarill and fire off their energy, this is very, very okay. So I'm going to farm up. They fire off the play rough. I'm hoping I can make double surf here. It looks like I cannot make double surf, so I should have just clicked Shadow Ball. But either way, we should be in a very comfortable position to close out this game. In comes the Sand Slash, and the opponent is going to resign the match. Pretty decent lead in the next match, Shadow Dragonite versus Golisopod. Golisopod, their charge moves are resisted, but if they're able to land an Aqua Jet, then Golisopod can actually get a Shadow Claw down. So even though on paper this is a pretty nice matchup, Dragonite in practice will actually have to go down a shield to win it. So my opponent is going to take their shield advantage, down goes Golisopod, out comes Spiritomb, and this is probably looking like a loss. Spiritomb, if it's up energy, can do terrifying things to teams, and it's up energy. It traded a shield for a big farm down. So now if they want to, they can pretty comfortably probably just sweep my entire backline. I'm going to no shield here, knowing that I can survive it. Go on for the Ice Punch. There's a shield from the opponent. And unfortunately, this means I have to respect the Shadow Ball, but this is almost guaranteed to be a Rock Tomb. It is going to be a Rock Tomb. It's Cradilly in the back. I'll play it out. Maybe my opponent makes a drastic misplay that tilts the game in my favor, but it's very unlikely. Switch Clock not available, so I can't even reset the debuff. I fire off another Shadow Ball. That's going to connect, but it's just not going to be enough damage. My opponent is going to go for the Rock Tomb. Wait, can I get a Surf? No, I cannot. We almost had an opportunity there. If my opponent let me get to a Surf and Surf KO'd, maybe there was a chance, but unfortunately, it was not to be. Shadow Dragonite getting a chance for redemption here, leading into another Golisopod. Golisopod is going to be firing off an Aqua Jet, and I will commit the shield and do what I did last time, which is look to overfarm. My opponent says no to that. They're going to pivot out into Registeel. Registeel firing off some energy here right as I make the back-to-back superpowers. It is going to be the Focus Blast, so I've given up both shields, but Dragonite will be able to either get them back or inflict massive damage. They no shield, and Dragonite gets a huge farm down. Their final Pokemon is revealed to be Powder Snow, Alolan Sandslash. We get a shield back with a superpower. There's a safe switch into Jellicent. Jellicent will be very, very good in this endgame for me, as Jellicent, of course, is resisting the Powder Snows. Golisopod's energy is fully walled. They're going to send in Golisopod as I fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball picks up the one-hit KO. They're leaving it all up to the Sandslash, and I know at this point this game is over, because my Sandslash will not get one-shot by a Drill Run, so I should be in a great spot. All I have to do is just switch into my Sandslash and take the win, but unfortunately here I decide to get a little fancy, and in doing so I almost cost myself the game. I try for a catch, I don't get it. They're now at the back-to-back Drill Runs, so if I don't win this CMP tie, I just threw the game trying to be fancy, but thankfully we do have the higher attack Sandslash. So trying to get fancy almost went wrong, but the good news is we are not punished and we're able to take the win. We see a pretty disastrous lead in the next match, leading Shadow Dragonite into Steelix. Steelix not as common in the Open Great League this season, as there's a lot of Pokemon that do very, very well into it. But here it is, and it's a nuisance for this team on the lead. They're going to go for the Psychic Fangs. I bait with the Dragon Claw. I'm going to farm up just shy of the move because I don't think I can get there, and I'm just forced to switch out into the Jellicent. This is not a good spot to be. They're going to go for a Psychic Fangs. Out comes Pangoro. This opponent does not fear Annihilate whatsoever. They're running an extremely hard ABA team. But Pangoro does not knock out with the Night Slash. Look at the bulk on Jellicent. Even debuff, Jellicent's going to get 2 Surfs. Pangoro not particularly comfortable even in this matchup. Pangoro, if they shield, will get a massive Karate Chop farm down. I'm very close to a move on the Shadow Dragonite. We get to the move. Oh my goodness. The Panda's gonna get KO'd with a bunch of energy. And now I send in the Sandslash. It's Jellicent in the back. This is not a good matchup for me, but up 2 shields with them losing all that energy, I am now in a position where I can win this game. My opponent is going to be firing off some energy, and I will be forced to double shield in this matchup. They are going to go for the Surf. They're now going to go for Surf number 2. Surf is alternating 4-3, 4-3. So I have a pretty safe 4 on the move. And if this doesn't KO, I'm going to try and catch on the Dragonite or snipe with a Dragon Breath. It doesn't quite KO the switch, and the one Dragon Breath snipe. Let's go Dragonite. Back in comes Steelix, immediately met with the Drill Run, and we should hopefully be in a pretty solid position here. But the Drill Run, it doesn't KO. They're the non-Shadow Steelix. Is this enough for a big move? It is not. It's just the Psychic Fangs. We get the farm down, and that is a good game. All in all, big congratulations to Crescent Angels. Being the first legend in the world in a season is a massive, massive accomplishment. Crescent Angels made it very far at the Pokemon Go World Championships in 2022, and it's awesome to know that they are still a battler of the absolute highest caliber. Now, when it comes to this team, I do feel like it has some strong points. Shadow Dragonite, a lot of teams honestly disrespect it, so it can very much just run away with games. I think some weak points for the team are if it runs into a Morpeko would be very, very uncomfortable for it, as Morpeko, there isn't really a hard check to Morpeko on the team. Dragonite can obviously just 2-shield through it, but if there's a situation where Morpeko has a shield or energy advantage, things could get quite uncomfortable. I do think Golisopod is a little bit of a tricky Pokemon for the team as well, which is honestly a little bit of a surprise to me, but it does wall off the Sand Slash. Dragonite has to go down a shield against it, and even though it is walled by the Jellicent, Shadow Claws do add up quite a bit. So if you do try the team, I think those are a few areas where the team could be a little bit tough to use, but if it climbed all the way up to being the first legend in the world, then the team is probably pretty strong other than those few weak points. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.